Alright, today we're going to take a look at some data and turn it into meaningful graphs so that we can make some interesting connections. That means that we're going to need to insert graphs and really work with this data in depth. So, as you work with data, you're going to have to select and manipulate data. So here I can just left click and select a whole column's worth of data, and then I can hold down Control so that that first column is not unselected, and then select a second column's worth of data. So I'm going to choose to graph the sun's altitude over a series of days, and it's a whole year's worth of days. I'm going to put this into a scatter plot format, and when I choose the scatter plot, I'm going to go with the XY, just regular scatter with the dots. And as you can see, Excel takes the information that I put in and it guesses at how I'd like this graph to look. And usually it does a pretty nice job. I can change some things. I can move the chart layouts, do some different stuff, and you can get really fancy smancy here. But let's do some basic changes. So one of the things that I notice about this graph is that I really don't need anything up until about 25, and then I really don't need anything past 75. So I can format my axis if I want to. I can set my minimum and maximum values to 25 and 75, and that'll give me a nice set of increments. Now it's automatically calculating my major and minor units, and those we'll see. The major lines are the lines that come here. The minor ones would be unlabeled on the axis, but still markers to tell how things are going. But that's good for me on the vertical. Now I could add axis titles if I wanted to have labels here, but these I know are in degrees, and we could come back and do that later if we wanted. The dates across the bottom are okay. They generally tell me what's going on, but what I'd like to do is add minor grid lines. So here you can see these lines don't get labels, but they do mean something. But I'd like to make sure that the scale is good, so let's click there, format our axis, and it looks like the minor unit is fixed, or is automatically selecting as 10 days, and that means that each little line is 10 days worth of my year, and that each big line, so each one of these little marks here at the bottom, there and there and there, that are labeled April 21st, June 10th, July 30th, those are all 50 days apart. So that's the scale that's there, and it gives me a lot of latitude to take a look at this. Now a graph like that is useful, but it's also good to graph other things, and so maybe I want to graph the date, and so I'll select that again, against something else like the length of day. And so if I do this, this is a little different because hours and time, like is given here, these are a bit strange for Excel. So if I right click and I can do insert, and I can choose, oops, that's the wrong kind of insert. If I choose insert scatter plot like this, sometimes a graph might come out and look a little weird. And if that's the case, there are still ways to make this work. So here, Excel is always trying to guess to make sure that I have the right look to my graph, but it doesn't always get it right. Instead, I can select data, and then this is the series that I want to take a look at. I can edit that series. I want to have a series that talks about the length of day, so I'll make that my series name. The X values are just the values that will make up my x-axis. The independent variable, so the one that I'm in charge of, or I'm sort of letting happen, and that's the days. And then what I'd really like to see graphed is the length of the day, which is what I set my series name as. And so I can select those data points, and as I'm doing this, I'm just clicking through, making this work, selecting what I want, and you can already see that the graph comes out very much better than the single dot it was previously. So by taking control, I'm able to edit this series and make it look just how I'd like. Now, it still looks like a lot of stuff going on here. Here's the horizontal category, axis labels, and these are all the series. I could graph several different things if I wanted to over this course of days and have all the graphs line up here. That would be adding more series. But just one at a time is good enough for my purpose. And so here I've got all sorts of stuff. Now I can fancily adjust this and these, and I can add some layout axis titles like a horizontal title below the axis and say that's the date. And so those can go in there. I can even add verticals, I can do legends and all sorts of things, label axes, a bunch of stuff. But what really matters is that you can process the information, and so that usually requires a bit of graphing. And with that, good luck, have fun.